Oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Lear 13. As we are about to get underway here for Stint 2 of HYR Silverstone 10-hour Enduro. I don't know why I said Silverstone, it's Spa. I was commissioned very last minute for this, so I have been told almost no information on this event whatsoever, and I do apologize for that. Alright. Again, I do apologize. This was a very last minute call-in for me for this Enduro, so I am not familiar or up to date on any of the rules. I've not been able to find anything in the Discord, and I've been running around with real-life work and other things I am been contracted to stream, so I've just been unfathomably busy, and I know almost nothing about what's going to be going on coming into this event. Some of the things I do know, though, this is going to be a multi-class event. There are only two categories, though. There is a GT3 class and an LMP2 class for today, or if you happen to live in East Asia, tonight's event. We are going to be looking at a scenario where you've got 2 hours of full-on racing. This is not Torah style where everyone stops 20 minutes before the end. The entire 2 hours, everyone is racing all 2 hours of it. I am going to be here for Stint 2. There is a possibility I will broadcast Stint 3 later, but that is not guaranteed. There are other issues going on my end that may prevent that from happening, but we will be here for Stint 2. There were 27 teams that qualified for the event overall, although several have gone ahead and pulled out. So I believe that was enough to split the entire field into two different lobbies. We are going to be covering the A lobby today. There is going to be a top category and a bottom category. The top category is going to be made of LMP2 cars. The bottom category is going to be made of GT3 cars. Real quick, let's look at some of the drivers who have joined us for today's event. EVR Echo is going to be in the 006 Mercedes. Entry HYR Void is supposed to be in another Mercedes, but there it is in the number 25 Mercedes. AFMD Vorm is in the IARA 211 Bentley Big Boy. NDL Cosmic is in one of two different Ford Mustangs. The other one is being run by Primo Carnivore. Then you have Les Panji. Panji is going to be in the Lexus. Next level is going to be in the BMW. And then we look at our prototype, relatively small prototype category for tonight. UDP Valkyrie is going to be in this lime green and black Orsia prototype. VER Deer Plot will be in this GoPro Orsia. TNR Max Jaga is going to be in the number 4 Orsia. NDL Dindu will be in the number 38 yellow and white Orsia. And the HYR 86 Orsia will be driven by DMS Sherry. And I believe that will likely be the entire... No, ZR HYR Cranky is joining right now. And momentarily you will get to see what car he is going to be running. He is not running the Ford Mustang 86. I can tell you that off the bat. And it seems like he's lagged out. So whatever is happening with him seems to be bad enough that's causing him to have trouble staying in the lobby right now. So right now we are in a bit of a holding pattern as we wait for one more driver to join us here. But we are looking at a 12, potentially 13 car lobby for today's event, depending on if HYR Cranky can get his issues sorted out here. Everyone else has readied up at this point. And there we are, ZR HYR Cranky going to try and jump back in here a second time now. And it looks like he's going to be in the number 5 Aston Martin Vantage for today's event. So a relatively respectable spread, and now he gets cut back into that bloody Mustang. But it looks like we're going to have a respectable spread of representation here for the GT category for today's event. There we are. So no, it looks like HYR Cranky is actually going to be in the BMW, not the Aston Martin. But he is here now. He has readied up, so we should be able to get underway momentarily here at Spa. Well, I don't really know what else the holdup is about at the moment. Oh, it looks like we've got one more latecomer. That is going to be Leechard. So Leechard is going to be joining us as well now. Very last minute addition. Now, Leechard, according to what I have seen in the Discord, is saying that he has spent the last several hours before this already trying to work out kinks in the car. He's claiming that he's already exhausted, so I would not expect a fantastic run from Leechard right now. For him, just surviving the 2 hours would be a significant positive. Have we already lost him? I think we... Oh, there he is, and he is going to be in another one of the Orsia prototypes. So we'll be looking at 6 prototypes for today's event, and 8 GTs in today's event. Leechard is going to be in the, looks like an 828 Orsia for tonight. Have we lost him now? Nope, there he is. Although it looks like the paint scheme got deleted, but it's okay. The paint scheme should be loaded properly when they load onto the circuit here momentarily. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, hopefully the field will be loading onto the circuit for the start of our second stint here for the Spa 10 hours. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa, as the grid has now been ordered up, and we will be loading onto the circuit momentarily here in rolling style formation. And we are off right away here at Spa. No need to worry about pace laps or anything like that. As they fire it off, it is TNR Max Jaga, and NDL didn't do it at the head of the field. The GT car is able to close right into the rear of the prototype category, but it does look like the prototypes are going to be able to get away here on the run down to Spa-Francorchamps. There has already been an incident, though. That is VER Deerplot, and he has been involved with Net's level here on some sort of catastrophe at coming out of Al Rouge and Radion. Both cars limping around right now. Completely destroyed for Deerplot, and then Net's level here is completely stalled on the track. He also has complete damage, so whatever has happened to these cars has been completely catastrophic. HYR Void has also taken some severe damage, but he does still have a functioning engine, so he's able to still do something right now. He's going to limp by AFMG Vorm here in the Bentley, and then you have HYR Voids move by him. So now in the top category, we are down to just 4 cars, and now we have people backing out. They may go ahead and mandate a lobby reset here. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a lobby reset for this catastrophic lap 1 incident in Al Rouge and Radion. Sadly, as I was trying to get the cameras and the ticker organized, I ended up missing the vast majority of the incident, so I do apologize for that. But we are going to go back into a holding pattern once again as they try to redo the start of this Enduro. Alright, so it looks like everyone is already ready back up. Although we have lost at least 1 person, if not 2. So give it just a little bit longer because they'll need to get people back in here. Nope, looks like we're down to just 12 cars now, I guess. Okay, so did a lot of people just rage quit after the incident? So now we're missing people. Are they going to back us out and then try another restart since we're still missing a bunch of people? Or have we had a bunch of people say, hey, look, after that lap 1 incident, I'm not even going to bother, and they pull out? Yep, looks like they are going to do another restart again already here. So problems on top of problems here at Spa-Francorchamps. All right, I think we've got most of everyone back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 GT cars and 6 prototypes. So yes, that is the entire field has now joined us back. So now we'll have attempt number 3 at gain underway here at Spa Francorchamps. So it's going to be Indiel Dindu and Max Jaga, at the front row of the prototypes, followed by VER Deerplot and DMS Sherry. After that will be Valkyrie. Again, no pace lap, no nothing. It's just going to be they load on and immediately get underway here. So the field's going to be still bunched up on relatively cold tires through Al Rouge and Radion. We're going to actually try and focus on the GT fight going up through Al Rouge and Radion this time. All right, and we are underway here at Spa. Real quickly, looking back in the GT class, there are already 3 and nearly 4 wide as they come into the very first hairpin corner here. But everyone is still pointing the same direction as they come out. It is Alexis and Bentley, Cosmic and Pansy at the head. No, that is not Bentley. That is one of the Mustangs at the head of the field as they now dive down into Al Rouge and Radion. And again, another LMP2 car is off circuit. That is, by the looks of it, AFMG, no, that's not AFMG form, that's Deerplot, one of the same drivers who were involved in the incident last time, hasn't this time, but it is a single car incident, and we stay green, and it is Indiel Cosmic who is on the inside of Les Pansy. Pansy is just going to cut the circuit, says, hey, I'm not even going to try to force it too wide by there and run the risk of taking us both out. He will fall in line second, though. So Indiel Cosmic takes the lead early on in the GT category. In the prototypes, TNR Max Jaga already has a significant gap over DMS Sherry and Leisure. Then it is Indiel Dindu and UDP Valkyrie runs back here in 5th. So already some massive spreading in the prototype category. It looks like the GT category is where we're going to have anything close to some serious racing action early on here. And we'll look at VER Deerplot, who has had catastrophic damage again coming out of Al Rouge and Radion. Not as much damage, but still enough to terminal all the important bits of the car. So for VER Deerplot, Stint 2 for him is basically over before it has even began. We look back here in the GT category, though. Is AFMG Vorm staying just ahead of Nets Level. This is the fight for 10th overall, which is 5th for GT. But already it looks like most of our GT field has single file down, except for this fight. Level is going to look to what is going to be the left-hand side of AFMG Vorm and will clear the Bentley before they get into the braking zone in Sector 3. High-speed bend, you want to carry as much speed through it as possible, but in these heavier, slower GT cars, you need to get some brakes on in order to make the corner. Now through the final corner chicane. As they come to the start-finish line, we've already completed about 2.5 minutes in our first lap. Now everyone's got nice warm tires. Farther up the grid, it looks like UDP Valkyrie is just not able to keep pace with the rest of the prototype field whatsoever here. Alright, and here we are. It looks like AFMG Vorm is just gradually slipping backwards through the order, so for whatever reason, it does not seem like he's having a fantastic time here at Spa. Now being harassed by HYR Void, and they have EVR Echo just behind, so AFMG Vorm in the IARA Bentley entry is at risk of falling into last position in this group right now. Here comes a dive to the inside, but Void is going to pull out of it. Again, you don't want to go sailing side by side in that corner and run the risk of gaining into the other driver and spinning both of you out, or even worse, crashing you and the other driver out. But Void definitely is faster than Vorm at the moment. So the Bentley struggling to make anything happen early on here at Spa. At the head of the field is NDL Cosmic, who has gotten back in front with the Ford Mustang. Interesting scenario, because in most other GT events that I've covered since this Ford Mustang GT3 has come to the game, typically the Mustang is incredibly underpowered, doesn't have great handling. It's just usually not a very good car for the purpose of racing. But right now, it looks like NDL Cosmic is making a good job making it work here. He is holding on to the lead in GT just ahead of Les Panji. Although Panji is not letting him go without a fight, he's looking to the inside and outside. So Cosmic and Panji seem to be the top two fighting here. Then you have Primo Carnivore in third and HYR Cranky in fourth. The four of them all reign a little bit of a truly train right now as they head through Sector 3 this time by. And for those of you who are tuning in to see what the VER drivers can do, well, the bad news is VER Deerplot has now finally gotten to pit lane, finally repaired the damage to his lap 1 incident, but he is going a lap down. So only 2 laps into the race, and already VER Deerplot is a lap down. There's a fight, and HYR Cranky looks like he's nipped his way by Primo Carnivore coming into the final chicane here. As now the field comes on down to the start-finish line. But while they were doing that, it's opened up gap, but just a little bit between third place and second place. Now the draft in that short straightaway will let it close back down, and now they're all back on top of each other. It's still Panji, HYR Cranky, Primo Carnivore, and Nets Level, your top 4 in GT. In Prototype, TNR Max Jaga has absolutely ran away from the rest of the field, but there is NDL didn't do rain in second, and then Leechard and DMS Sherry have been swapping the position for third and fourth back between each other multiple times. Then after that is DMS Sherry, who runs a little bit farther back solo. Then UDP Valkyrie is completely in no man's land, just does not have any pace. And it looks like Panji is going to go the long way around to try and pass Cosmic at the end of the Camel Straight, but that is not going to stick. And the Mustang goes back into the lead. So just for one corner does Alexis go to the top, but went too aggressively at the end of the Camel Straight. Ended up losing the lead right after getting it. Bold move, but nothing was able to come of it. Real quick, let's go ahead and look at the tire wear of everyone at the head of the field. It is 16.6% wear right now for NDL Cosmic. For Panji, he is at 16.3% wear, so just slightly better tire wear. For HYR Cranky, who is third in this line of cars, he is at 17%, so not great for him. And then Primo Carnivore, who is fourth in this line of cars, he has got 17.7%. So it seems like the drivers near the front of this grid are doing better with their tire management right now. Real quick, let's look at the prototype category and see what it's looking like for them, as Max Jaga has been caught now by NDL Dindu. Max Jaga is at 19% tire wear. NDL Dindu, who runs right behind him, is at 18% tire wear. And then Leechard, who has now moved into the third position, he is at 18.8% tire wear, but he also has just a bit of engine damage, which is going to slow him down significantly as this continues here. So Max Jaga being harassed by NDL Dindu. And HYR Cranky may have just had a disconnect. It says that HYR Cranky may have left the group. We're keeping an eye on him to see if that's the case. But if so, that would be awful timing, because HYR Cranky was getting aggressive there with Les Panji. And now, if HYR Cranky has had a disconnect, that would have broken up this lead pack of GT cars. NDL Cosmic has now opened up a gap on the rest of the GT field. Up through Al Rouge, HYR Cranky is still here though, still harassing Cosmic. Primo Carnivore still runs fourth, just behind this group. Cranky has a big run on Panji as they come down to the end of the Camel Straight, but is not going to commit to anything this time by. And now the trio are trying to run their way back down to NDL Cosmic. There's also a fight for last position in GT, as Vorm and Echo have gone back and forth at it here. Echo definitely seems to be faster than Vorm, but when you're only like a half-tenth faster in every corner, that's just not going to be enough to get you alongside cars. You need to be much more than half-a-tenth, much closer to a full tenth faster in a corner in order to make an overtake happen. And at the front is Max Jaga and Dindu, who are now having a bit of a scuffle at the head of the field. Max Jaga had opened up a giant gap right at the start, but now has been caught by Dindu, and as the two of them are fighting, it's bringing Leechard back into the fray. It is a dead heat between these two as they cross the line this time. And now they head through the turn 1 hairpin and rush it downhill. We'll see the prototype field rush by momentarily here. Or the lead of the prototype field, at least. 4th and 5th have also caught each other at this stage of the event. Oh, and that's Leechard! Leechard is sideways and into the outside wall. And still in the dirt, and the car is destroyed. So that is our second prototype car that has been damaged in an accident in the Al Rouge Radion complex. And we're not even a full 10 minutes through the event. And Leechard, twice, is our second prototype driver to have catastrophic damage. Now the question is going to be, where is Leechard going to be in relation to Deerplot? This also is going to move UDP Valkyrie up into 4th position. It will take a little bit of time because Valkyrie is just so massively off pace, but Valkyrie will get moved up into the 4th position just off the back of this. Also, Echo has finally gotten by Vorm by the looks of it, but just barely has gotten to the inside, coming down to the turn 1 hairpin, and Vorm does not have the nimbleness in that big boy Bentley to cross over, but he does have power, and now he's going to use the power to make it go back side by side, trying not to be last here in the GT category as they come down through Al Rouge and Radion. Up to the top, and now back onto the Camel straightaway. Echo has the draft and pulls back alongside, but he is trapped on the outside of the Bentley. But if he can outbrake the Bentley, might be able to make it work. The Bentley goes aggressive under braking. He's going to slide right in front of position. That's what a slide job looks like in road racing. And Vorm gets back to 12th. But at the head of the field in GT, Indio Cosmic has opened up a substantial gap over this trio of drivers fighting, HYR Cranky, Panji, and Primo Carnivore. And then Ness Level hangs out solo in 10th overall, and HYR Void hanging out solo in 11th. Valkyrie has finally cleared Leechard's damaged car. And Max Jaga, not only has he lost the lead, he has completely lost touch with Indiel Dindu. So it's taken him a little bit of time, but Dindu has absolutely opened up the pace now. Once we've got a few laps in, and is now blitzing away from Max Jaga. DMS Sherry, now with no Leechard around, is going to move into 3rd position. UDP Valkyrie has now inherited 4th. Leechard in pit lane for 5th. Looking at the penalties right now as we're about 12 minutes into the event. It is not looking good when it comes to penalties, just because a lot of drivers have been racking up penalties throughout the event. The only drivers who have not, Indiel Cosmic, your leader in GT, and then Leechard, Valkyrie, and Dindu in the prototype categories. Max Jaga and DMS Sherry both only have about 0.02 of a mile, so that's like 52, that's about 104, 110 feet for them. But in the GT category, different story altogether. HYR Cranky holds on to 2nd, but with already over 1/10 of a mile of distance penalties. Les Panji also already has over 1/10 of a mile in distance penalties. So does Primo Carnivore in 9th spot as well. So while these drivers are all fighting very aggressively, they are racking up the penalties, and that's just not going to help them at all. But the thing is, they have a good enough pace advantage over the drivers like Ness Level and HYR Void. They may be able to afford getting all these penalties and still finish comfortably ahead, especially if this group eventually stops fighting later on in the event and they can just lock in and focus on sheer lap times here at Spa. Echo gets back by Vorm by the looks of it, going through Al Rouge and Radion this time by. So I think Vorm's slow descent backwards through the grid has finally come to a conclusion here, and it looks like Vorm has now fallen into last of everyone who has not been involved in an accident thus far in the event. Frustrating thing for Leechard. Leechard is now 5th. Now, we know he's faster than Valkyrie, but he's going to have to just turn a bunch of fantastic laps to try and run Valkyrie back down, so that may be something to keep an eye on, a fight again for what could be 4th later in the event here, but it would be much, much later. HYR Cranky still is still harassing Les Panji here. So it is Lexus, Mercedes, and Mustang running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as your leader, Indiel Cosmic, is doing what I personally had thought was impossible and making good pace out of the Mustang. Again, it's been a little bit over a year. I think it's been about a year and a third since the Mustang GT3 was added to this game. I have never once seen it look competitive. And now today, that's all turned around thanks to Indy Cosmic. Leachard has now earned a distance penalty as well. So now Valkyrie is the only prototype driver with no distance penalties at this stage of the event. Side by side there for a second once again between HYR Cranky and Panji. And it looks like that BMW M4 is able to just nose ahead. And now Primo Carnivore is the one that has a run. Down into the hairpin of turn 1. Big cut by HYR Cranky, just trying to cut the momentum off from Les Panji. And Primo Carnivore still hangs out in the 4th position in that fight. There goes your leader, Cosmic, and this is how big the gap is from him to this fight for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now. The prototype field has completely spread out at this point. There are no fights left, so while Max Jaga jumped into the lead lap 1, the prototypes and opened up a bit of a gap. It's just been a very, very slow matter of Dindu waking up, and then once Dindu really woke up, he ran down Max Jaga, passed him without issue, and then has vanished off into the distance, and the rest of the prototype field has been spread out due to lack of pace and accidents. GT, we're having a little bit more action here in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but Indy Cosmic is also rushed off into the distance. For Cosmic, this could be fantastic, because while he is running completely solo, he can focus not necessarily on just pure lap time, but he can also focus on making sure that he doesn't extend the track, he does not get any distance penalties at any point in the event to further his and his overall team's advantage in this event. Real quickly, I want to look at the fuel and tire wear of these 3 drivers. 43% wear right now for HYR Cranky, who has taken 2nd. 3rd place, Les Panji, he's only at 42% tire wear, so doing slightly better on tires. And then Primo Carnivore, 44% tire wear, but he is almost out of fuel in that HYR Esports Mustang right now. So, how does tire wear affect on such a large circuit like Spa-Francorchamps? Well, it works like this. On a relatively short circuit, a really small track, think of something super small like the Maple Valley Short Circuit in this game. Tire wear means that you could pit a lap earlier or a lap later because you can do well on tires. But on a giant circuit like Spa, it does not work like that. You kind of have to pit at almost the same point irregardless. Even if you are doing 1 to 2 to 3% better on tire wear a lap, you're likely still going to have to pit at the same time as everyone around you. What it does mean, though, is that the lap right before you pit, so what is typically known as your in-lap, if your tire wear is significantly worse than the others, even if it's just by 1 or 2%, it could be enough to cause you to hemorrhage a lot of time in the last sector or 2 on your in-lap. It's going to have a big impact. So in-laps are going to be incredibly important here for these 3 as they come to the top of Al Rouge and Radion once again. Down the back straightaway once more, and into the switchback at the end of the Camel Straight before they start heading back downhill through all of Sector 2. But it looks like our fight for 2nd position is also now finally starting to break apart. HYR Cranky seems to have maintained a stable gap between himself and Panji just seems to be sliding the rear of that Lexus around right now, and the BMW in 4th doesn't seem to have anything he can really do to clap back. Most of the other fights seem to have resolved themselves as well outside of AFMG Vorm and EVR Echo as the 2 of them continue to swap positions back and forth here. So I'm going to be very interested to see when HYR Cranky, Panji, and Primo Carnivore all elect to go ahead and stop. For Carnivore, he is so low on fuel, I'd imagine he has to pit this time by, even though he probably has another lap or 2 of life left in the tires. He is way lower on fuel than I imagine he wants to be. Real quickly looking at our leader, Indy Cosmic at the head of the field. He still has 7% in the fuel tank, so he can probably stay out for another lap without too much issue here. So if everyone's able to stay out for about 20 minutes at a time, if not just a little bit more, you do the math, that's a 120-minute race or 120-minute stint If you can stay out every 20 minutes before making a stop, that is a 5-stop event. 20 minutes in, 40 minutes in, an hour 20 in, an hour 40 in, and you'd be fine to the end. No reason to worry about any zany strategies. And yes, Primo Carnivore is pitting farther back there. HYR Cranky is continuing to slowly open his gap, though, on Les Panji. Bad news for Les Panji is that not only has he lost touch with HYR Cranky, he now has a distance penalty disadvantage to HYR Cranky at this stage of the event as well. AFMG Vorm has, for the moment, gotten back ahead of Echo, and their little fight, Vorm has opened up a small unexpected advantage in the form of distance penalties advantage. He currently has fewer distance penalties than anyone else in GT, with the exception of your leader, NDL Cosmic. He is only at 33 thousandths of a mile of distance penalties right now. So that's about, what, 160 feet worth of distance penalties, as they are now being caught by who I believe is Leechard, trying to recover after his accident earlier in the event. I think that's Leechard, at least. No, that is not Leechard. Who is that? Was that Valkyrie? Nope, Valkyrie is pitting. Is that the leaders? I guess it is the leaders going through there. That would have been TNR Max Jag... No, Sherry. Which prototype is it, Gabe? It was a Deer Plot. It was not Deer Plot. I can't tell which prototype it was. I look at them and all of them have a different paint scheme than the one we saw go by. That's incredibly annoying. We have a twitch there by Deer Plot, as he is just running around, burning laps. Has got to be absolutely frustrated because he is a full lap down compared to the rest of the prototype field. Basically started with a broken leg in the marathon. And not just that, he also has more distance penalties than anyone else in the prototype category right now. Les Panji is now up to over 1/5 of a mile in distance penalties here at Spa. And we're only about 1/6 of the way through the event. So for Les Panji, he is on track to potentially get more than a mile of distance penalties in this event. NDL Cosmic now finally pits out of the lead here. So yes, it does look like the majority of the field is going to be committing to pitting just once every 20 minutes. Although Les Panji wants to stay out here another lap, try and make something else happen here. He's already got some significant wear on the tires, but he's got more fuel in the tank. Now, it's a 120-minute race. Let's just say you want to stay out there for 25 minutes at a time. 25 and 25 would take you to 50. 50 and 50 would take you to 100. You could pit 25 minutes in, 50 minutes in, 75 minutes in, 100 minutes in, and you would make it a 4-stop event over the course of the race. So yeah, add an extra 5 minutes to your stints would make it potentially a 4-stop affair instead of the 5-stop affair that everyone pitting once every 20 minutes is doing. So is that Panji's strategy? Thing is that even if this strategy could work out for Panji, he already has a massive amount of distance penalties accrued at this stage of the event. And NDL Cosmic has now just earned his first distance penalty of the day as well. 0.033 miles. So staying clean here at Spa-Francorchamps seems to be a massive issue for the entire field, with the exception of UDP Valkyrie. Valkyrie currently is the only driver on track with no distance penalties right now. And here's real quick an idea of what the changes have been since the start of the event. Deerplot has obviously lost 4 positions since the start because he was the prototype driver that was involved, the only one, that lap 1 accident. Max Yaga didn't have swap positions back at the head of the field, but that is only because it looks like Max Yaga has elected to not make his stop yet, and he is at 65% wear on the tire. So I think Max Yaga may also be looking to try and make it a 4-stop affair here. As you can see, he is the only prototype who has not yet made his first stop. So trying to push out to 25 minutes on a stint, it's a bold strategy, Pat, and let's see how it plays out, because sure, you cut out an entire pit stop, and you spend a lot of time in pit road here, but you're also going to be losing a massive amount of time struggling on burnt-out tires. And now Max Yaga is going to pit, but he only made it 23 out of the 25 minutes. Les Panji is also going to go ahead and pit this time by as well, and so does Next Level. So Pansy, Level, and Max Jaga tried to go 25 minutes, but they were only able to go about 23 to 23 and a half minutes. Those numbers don't sound like it's going to work for them if they want to make it a 4-stop strategy here. The pace just isn't there, and the life of the tires just isn't there as well. And mind you, this is a classic Forza. Oh, and Max Jaga has disconnected! We'll try to reach out to Max Jaga here, see what happened. But that looks like it is our first absolute official disconnect of the event. So this gives the lead in the prototypes over to Indiel Dindu, and he is not going to be pressured by anyone to the end of the event now. This also has given the lead in GT back over to Indiel Cosmic. Well, it looks like all the strategies have pretty much been resolved. No one is able to push the tires 25 minutes here. And considering that a lap around here is about 2.5 minutes in the GT cars, no one could basically go an extra 2 laps on their soft tires. 1 extra lap, we saw several drivers do it, but 2 laps is just not going to happen. So it looks like this will be a very straightforward strategy race. Just pit once every 20 minutes, and that will decide the event from that point on. The entire field has now completed their first round of pit stops. Your leader in GT is Indiel Cosmic. Your leader and prototype is Indiel Dindu, as the Indiel drivers seem to have a little bit of fortune and good strategy has put them head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the field here at Spa-Francorchamps. Dindu running in completely clean air right now. And same thing with Cosmic, also in completely clean air. HYR Cranky is relatively ahead of Primo Carnivore, and both of them are well ahead of Les Panji. So Panji lost an obscene amount of time staying out there for the extra laps. And now Deerplot finally makes his stop after he has burnt up his tires. So Deerplot, who was trying to do everything he can to get back on the lead lap. Well, he was briefly back on the lead lap, but now he's going to go back to being a lap down to Indiel Dindu. We're going to take a Twitch-mandated ad break and run for a flying lap on board with our lead prototype, Indiel Dindu. We'll be back shortly here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa-Francorchamps. We are almost 1/4 of the way through the running here. Indiel Dindu leads with a gigantic margin over second place in prototypes, DMS Sherry, who is, I believe that is them right there. No, that is not DMS Sherry. That is the lap car VER Deerplot. DMS Sherry is this far back, and Leechard is coming back into pit lane. Has there been damage to this car that we've missed? Has he been involved in another incident? No, but looks like he's just not pushing the tires very far. He had the fuel to go longer, had the tires to go longer, but he is pitting early irregardless. So don't know what's going on there. Reminder, Leachard is in a fight with UDP Valkyrie. Leachard had the pace to be running third on merit, but had an accident, and Al Rouge and Radion had to pit, knocked him off sequence. Now he is trying to get back ahead of UDP Valkyrie, and you'll see Valkyrie going by right there. And in the pit lane, that is Leachard. So has Leachard already completed the overtake on Valkyrie? That is the question. It's going to be cold tires versus warm tires here. Valkyrie's behind, but has warm tires. Leachard needs to get his tires up to temp as they come up through Al Rouge and Radion. Oh my goodness, Leachard completely clears the ground and gets about a foot in the air as he went over the rumble strips. Somehow the car did not go into the outside wall. I'm remembered of a LMP2 crash that happened here back in, I believe, 2018, where one of the LMP2 prototypes washed wide, went over the curbs, and the nose went skyborne, and the thing did a complete backflip before landing on the roof. Now, the physics in this game doesn't let you do quite the same thing, but Leachard was well on his way to doing the same thing, getting a full foot on the air between himself and the ground below, and that has put UDP Valkyrie back ahead of Leachard. So Leachard should have the pace to pass Valkyrie, but they are dealing with a little bit of traffic here. That is, I believe, Void and Vorm, who are still at it. No, that is not Void and Vorm. That is Void and Nets Level, who are in their little fight here. Vorm's been fighting with Echo, and it seems like Leachard is struggling. Leachard may have pace, but he is struggling to deliver consistent results. He can't even get by the GT cars. He is so, what's the term I want to use? Unconfident? Yeah, I'll say unconfident. I think Leachard is just very unconfident with what the car can or can't do. And Valkyrie, while they may be much, much slower right now, is able to just knock out nice, consistent lap times. So it's the classic battle of consistency versus stability. Thing is, Leachard may have some kind of advantage because he has already made his second stop. Valkyrie has yet to make their second stop at this stage of the event. Also of note, while Cosmic has run off into the distance, Haya Cranky and Primo Carnivore are still relatively close to each other. Haya Cranky holds station over Carnivore, and Les Panji, who is trying to go extra long on the tires, has lost so much ground it is taking him out of contention in fights for podium position in GT. Once again, I look at Leachard, he can see UDP Valkyrie just up ahead. That time it looked like Leachard was a little bit more stable coming up through Al Rouge and Radion. And yes, you can visibly see the gap rapidly closing between the two now. So they'll probably catch each other about the same time that they catch Les Panji, I'd imagine. So Valkyrie has gone for stability and consistency. Leachard is going for more speed, but Leachard's already paid for it with one big accident. Well, it wasn't the biggest accident, but he's already paid for it with one accident early in the event. They have a hiccup by Valkyrie there as they go through No Name Corner now. And down through this big sweeping double left-hander. And now to the bottom of the circuit, the lowest point on the entire track. Great place for making switchbacks happen. Especially in the slower, heavier cars like your GT stuff. Leachard still runs right behind UDP Valkyrie. And like I said, they caught each other just about the same time they caught Primo Carnivore here. No, not Primo Carnivore. Les Panji here. So how aggressively does Leachard push to try and get by Valkyrie here for third? There's contact, and into the outside wall goes Leachard. And he's spinning, he's sliding, and he rolls it! 2, 3, 3.5 times, and finally comes to rest on all 4 tires. And the car is destroyed. And the lack of handling, the lack of stability in Leachard's car bites him again. Thankfully for him, this was just 2 corners before pit road, but unthankfully for him, for Leachard, this may be all it takes to permanently take him out of contention for a podium spot here. So with Max Jaga having disconnected, with Deerplot having a lap 1 accident, and Leachard now having his 2nd accident of the day, I think that will be enough for UDP Valkyrie to, by default, lock up a 3rd place result in today's event. So I think all of the drama and all of the questions for prototypes have basically been decided. Now the question is going to be, how many more times is Leachard going to end up crashing today, considering how unstable that thing is. That is 2 accidents in the first 35 minutes of this stint. And that second one, a complete rollover multiple times. He got to the inside of Valkyrie. They made just a little bit of contact, and Leachard's car went sideways into the outside wall, then cut back across the track, dug into the dirt, and began rolling multiple times. Oh, and we have lost another driver. That is EVR Echo, who apparently has now disconnected from the event. We'll try to reach out to Echo, see if he has anything to say. And that is Valkyrie, who's gotten by the duo of Primo Carnivore and HYR Cranky right now. Now, interestingly enough, Primo Carnivore trying to do something with HYR Cranky. This is the fight for 2nd and 3rd on the podium here in GT. 36% tire wear for HYR Cranky. For Primo Carnivore, he is at 42% tire wear. So HYR Cranky, who pitted about a lap later, I'm guessing. Either that or I've completely misjudged how quickly the tires are falling off. But HYR Cranky should have the overall advantage in this battle. So we have lost 1 prototype car and 1 GT car at this stage of the race. Now they need to fire it back onto the short front straightaway once more. Now through the turn 1 hairpin. Still no big moves or attempts at moves right now. Right on board with Primo Carnivore as he runs in Cranky's draft. If he has a good run through Hours and Ratty on it, we could set him up for a bit of a drafting overtake, but neither of them had a good time through there that time by. Well, in all of the chaos that's gone on, Deerplot has actually ended up ahead of Leachard by a pretty significant margin. So while Deerplot is still a lap down, he is now back up into the 4th spot. And with how fast he is running down Valkyrie, there is a possibility that if Deerplot doesn't have any more instance, Deerplot could end up nicking Valkyrie for 3rd in the last 25 minutes or so of this race, just because of the massive pace differential. Valkyrie just has gone so aggressive on being conservative with their so aggressive on being conservative doesn't really make sense, but Valkyrie has gone so conservative on their setup, and Deerplot has a more racy setup that Deerplot might still be able to steal a podium result out of all of this. Leachard pitting again already. Is there still damage on this car again? Has he had a 3rd accident? Yes! He has had a 3rd accident. Leachard has had his 3rd accident in just 36 minutes? Yeah, he's had 3 accidents in a span of 37 minutes. So Leachard is averaging an accident once every 11 minutes right now. So Leachard has no stability whatsoever. If this keeps up, there is a risk that Leachard is going to be caught and overtaken on track by Indio Cosmic. It's just gone that bad for Leachard today. Real quick, let's look at the penalties right now. DER Deerplot nearly over a 1/5 of a mile. He's nearly at a 1/4 of a mile distance penalties. Primo Carnivore is pitting first over GT drivers to make their 2nd stop. He is at over a 1/4 of a mile distance penalty. ZR HYR Cranky, who is 2nd, is also approaching a 1/4 mile distance penalty. Les Pangi and Nets level in 9th and 10th both have over a 1/5 of mile penalties. HYR Void is he's closing in on 0.15 mile penalty. AFMG Vorm, despite being incredibly slow, still has less than a 1/10 of a mile penalty, but if you're that much slower, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that at all. And NDL Cosmic is the driver with the least amount of distance penalties in GT. He only has 0.06 of a mile penalty right now. So that's like 300 feet worth of penalty for Cosmic. That's nothing compared to the rest of the field. And Prototype's UDP Valkyrie is still the only driver with no distance penalties, but again, that may not matter with how much the field has spread out in Prototypes. Deerplot does have a lot of penalties though, so again, Deerplot and Valkyrie may catch each other later in the event, way later in the event. So it may have some effect later, but that depends on Deerplot being absolutely perfect and Valkyrie not finding pace as the event goes on. NDL Didn't Do is at 43 thousandths of a mile, and DMS Sherry is at 53 thousandths of a mile of distance penalties right now. As you can see in the pit stops, Leisure has pitted 4 times, 3 of them for accident repair now. Primo Carnivore has been the first driver in the GT category to make pit stops. He is trading in longevity for track position right now. I imagine we'll see most of our GT field jumping into pit lane this time by, though. Here's your leader in Prototypes, NDL Didn't Do. So NDL drivers only have 2 entrants right now, but one of them is dominating in GT, one of them is dominating in Prototype. A little bit of contact there with the Ford of... That was, who was that? Was that Primo? Yeah, that was Primo Carnivore. So a little bit of contact between Primo Carnivore and NDL Didn't Do. I imagine Didn't Do won't be happy with that, but he is by. All's fair in love and war, and they keep going. When you're this much faster than the rest of the field, there's not really much of a point in complaining when the GT cars race you hard, because you're not really going to lose that much time when you're just this much faster than everyone else. So, no, it looks like NDL Cosmic is going to stay out one more lap. So Cosmic is pushing it, not massively farther, but he is able to go just a little bit more than 20 minutes right now. It looks like most of the GT field is actually going farther. So Primo Carnivore is the exception. He is pitting earlier than every 20 minutes. Everyone else seems to have the confidence to go just a little bit more than 20 minutes. So Primo Carnivore may be in a position that he has to make a 6th stop late in the event, depending on how much time he continues to lose. Now again, he's got better tires right now. He's going to have track position, but that's going to flip on its head, and he'll have much worse tires later on, so he's going to be paying the piper a little bit here and there on each and every fuel and tire stint right now. Oh, big twitch and slide by Primo Carnivore going through Al Rouge and Radion. It looks like Nets Level and HYR Void are still in their little spat here for position. Not really taking much time to look at either of these two. They have been stalking each other for a while. Coming downhill, No Name, and now the double left-hander here. A bit of a slide by Void as he runs behind Nets Level. UDP Valkyrie paying out 3rd spot now. Didn't Do and Sherry waiting just a little bit longer to make their 2nd stops. Well, if you want... Oh, and Void drops the tire into the dirt just as Prototype's traffic is rushing their way through. That is, I believe, Deerplot. Yeah, that is Deerplot, who is trying to rush to maybe catch Valkyrie before this event is over. But he's going to clear this duo without too much issue here. And now NDL Didn't Do will jump into the pit lane. I imagine DMS Sherry will pit in a little bit as well. NDL Cosmic is paying this time by. HYR Cranky is paying this time by. Les Pansy will stay out a little bit longer. Through the final chicane. And both Level and Void will stay out just a little bit longer this time by. So it looks like at least they'll end up ahead of HYR Cranky, although NDL Cosmic is already out of pit lane and moving again. Yeah, there's HYR Cranky coming out of pit lane just ahead of this duo, but he has to get his tires up to temperature. And the exit from the pit lane at Spa makes you a little bit slower than the traffic around, so HYR Cranky's actually going to end up behind these two battling drivers there. DMS Sherry now finally jumps in to make his 2nd stop. So all prototype cars have now made at least 2 stops at this stage of the event. Here comes this was briefly a 3-way fight into the camel, at the end of the camel straight through the chicane. HYR Cranky watching Void, and Net's level being held up. He's got to be, come on, I don't have time for this. If I want to maintain second, I need to be turning clean laps while I get a chance. Although HYR Cranky does have a significant gap over Primo Carnivore on circuit right now, so it may not matter too much. We'll see a little bit of contact there. The Merc of HYR Void is going to go defensively to the left-hand side, then swing back right in front of HYR Cranky. Now HYR Cranky gets a run to the inside, side by side as they come down the hill, and the tire advantage should be enough for HYR Cranky. Yes, HYR Cranky will maintain position over Void, but now Cranky has to figure out a way by Net's level here. As some BMW on BMW action, but level is on some really badly cooked tires. And HYR Cranky has some nice fresh ones. There's some prototype traffic as well rushing through. That is the leader in prototypes, actually. NDL didn't do. Didn't do's already cleared Cranky and now clears that's level without too much issue. Ooh, not a great run there through the bend by level. That might not only compromise his speed, but also may end up with a penalty for him. But is level going to pit this time by? No pitting yet by level. It's only at 53% tires, so he is one of those drivers who went farther on the tires than everyone else in the first stint, trying to go the 25-minute distance. Of course, he wasn't able to, but he was trying to. HYR Cranky still has fresher tires, goes to the inside in the hairpin corner, and that should be an easy overtake, because even though level is in a position to cross him over, the tires do not have the grip, or do they? No, I guess he has just enough grip in the tires. It's side by side, BMW on BMW action as they come down the hill, now in through Al Rouge and Radion once again. But no, with the better tires, HYR Cranky has now cleared Net's level, and there's nothing that level can do to fight back. Your leader is still Les Panzi at the moment, as he also has yet to make his second stop, but he's at 58% tire wear. Surely he will pit at the end of this lap. There's no way that he could stay out, not only for this lap, but he'd need to stay out for 2 more laps if he wants to get back onto the 25-minute rhythm. I just don't see any way that that's going to happen here. He does have an advantage on track over NDL Cosmic, though. Cosmic is on the more traditional 5-stop strategy. Panji, is he trying to get his way back onto the 4-stop strategy? All right, we get it. Gosh, I had maintenance come and change you out last night, you stupid smoke detector. Why are you still beeping? You're not even the same one. They got a brand new smoke detector. Why are you still beeping? Is it carbon monoxide warning? Anyways. So yeah, now you see Cosmic being overtaken there by NDL didn't do. So the NDL drivers briefly alongside each other on track. Through that high-speed bend. When does Panji elect to make his stop? And now is when he's going to make it with about 47 minutes left. And he's crashed! Panji crashes coming into pit lane. The car is in horrendous condition. And Panji crashes coming into pit lane. And any advantage he may have had is now going to be negated by the fact that he'll have to repair the car on pit road. Next level will go ahead and jump into the pit lane as well. So with this, all drivers will have completed their second round of stops. But for Panji, things just go from bad to worse. And any shot he had of fighting with the likes of HYR Cranky or Primo Carnivore for podium positions, it's going to be long over now. So Net's level ended up pitting much later than HYR Void. So Void should be ahead of Net's level by virtue of running a bunch of laps in nice clean air. But Net's level is going to have a significant tire advantage for the next several laps. So that might be something worth keeping an eye on. In the stalking battle between Deer Plot and UDP Valkyrie, well, I thought it was going to be a long time before they caught each other, but that is not the case. UDP Valkyrie right now is not that far behind, well, not that far ahead of Deerplot on circuit at the moment. And Deerplot is rapidly running Valkyrie down. So a podium may still be in the cards for Deerplot. The only problem is Deerplot still has yet to make his third stop. It would be his normal second stop. But remember, he had that accident on lap 1. So extra pit stop on lap 1 basically repaired damage. So he is basically behind. But yeah, Deerplot is absolutely tearing into the gap between themselves and Valkyrie right now. So there is a possibility that Deerplot could end up catching Valkyrie much, much sooner than I thought. But yeah, now we'll see Deerplot jump into the pit lane this time by. Most of the battles on track seem to have pretty much dissolved, though. Everyone is kind of running solo at this stage of the race after about 50 minutes, 50 minutes here on circuit. Well, the dominant driver in the GT category has been another NDL driver. It is NDL Cosmic here in the Ford Mustang, who has been in a zone of his own. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and while we do, we will spend a flying lap on board with NDL Cosmic here, give you an idea what it looks like in a properly competitive Ford Mustang GT3 here around Spa-Francorchamps. We'll be back shortly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa-Francorchamps. As we are not quite an hour through our 2-hour event, everyone has really gotten spread out, and there's kind of not a lot to talk about right now outside of mistakes that people have been making. HYR Cranky currently runs in the second position in GT right now. Primo Carnivore is third, but Primo Carnivore has been pitting earlier, if I remember correctly. Now, Primo Carnivore is already at 38% tire wear. HYR Cranky, who is running second, has been pitting at the more reasonable time frame. He's only at 26% tire wear right now, so HYR Cranky's ahead in that fight. Les Panji, back here in 9th overall, 4th in GT, went way too long on his first tire stint. Tried doing that again the second time because I think Panji was going for a 4-stop strategy, realized the tires can't last, and then Panji crashed coming into pit lane on this most recent set of stops. So Panji is completely out of contention for a podium by all means. Then in 5th, it's Nets Level right now, who is running pretty much solo He ran long on his most recent set of tires, and he is ahead of HYR Void. Void pitted early compared to Nets Level, but is still behind him by a significant margin. So while Nets Level isn't right on the ideal strategy, they're not doing an absolute awful job right now. And then AFMG Vorm started sort of high up the grid, but just kind of gradually fell down through the GT field and is now last of everyone still running. In the prototype category, TNR Jax Maga started up front, went to the lead, opened up a big gap early on in the event, but then after about 10 minutes, NDL Dindu turned on the afterburners, caught him and ran him down. Max Jacket was hanging out in second, then disconnected during his first pit stop. Since then, NDL Dindu has been leading home free with no issue whatsoever. There was a fight between DMS Sherry and Leechard for third, which then became second with Max Jaga's instant. But then at the top of Al Rouge and Radion, a big twitch by Leechard caused him to hit the outside wall, damage his car, and dropped him down the order. Leechard, while on the recovery drive, caught UDP Valkyrie, and on the run down to the final chicane, they had a bit of a contact, and Leechard lost control of his car, went into the outside wall, then spun across the circuit. The car dug into the crash, rolled over 4 times, and he had to limp it back in. He repaired the car, got going again, then crashed a 3rd time. We did not catch that one, but that was only about 2 laps later. And that has now trapped Leechard in 5th position. Deerplot wrecked on lap 1 in Al Rouge and Radion, and he is trying to run down on UDP Valkyrie before this race is over. While sadly Deerplot has no chance of getting back on the lead lap, he might still be able to nip UDP Valkyrie for 3rd in the stint. And the gap between Dindu and DMS Sherry is so massive, while it's not quite half of a lap, it's darn close to half of a lap. There is a possibility that if DMS Sherry has anything go wrong, even something small go wrong before the end of this, NDL Dindu will put the entire prototype field, what little there still is, a lap down by the end of this stint. So while NDL Cosmic is having a casually dominant day in GT, NDL Dindu is taking dominance to a whole new meaning right now here at Spa, which is absolutely decimating everyone else on circuit. But yeah, all of the battles have pretty much dissolved at this stage of the event, and now it's mostly a matter of strategy. And the sad thing is, NDL Cosmic and ZR Hyatt Cranky are the drivers with the best strategy. Everyone else either were on the good strategy but have done something that has derailed their track position enough that they can't make use of it, or they commit to an alternate strategy where the benefits on the alternate strategies just are not big enough to really push here. So yeah, I think most of the positions on track have been settled. We're really just watching what will be a very long, slow burn fight between UDP Valkyrie and VER Deerplot for what is 3rd on track. And Leechard is pitting again, as he already had another accident. No accident, although he has damaged the engine a bit, but Leechard is back to taking a normal pit stop at least. And that's got to feel so relieving for Leechard to have made a normal pit stop this time. For normal circumstances, your GT leader, NDL Cosmic, goes by Leechard here. Okay, so Dindu is almost a half lap ahead, if not exactly a half lap ahead of DMS Sherry. So I guess the second thing to keep an eye on is, will Dindu put DMS Sherry an entire lap down? Reminder, this is an endurance race. This is stint 2 out of 5. If Dindu can open up an entire lap of a gap over DMS Sherry here, that would be very, very crucial in ensuring that NDL not only has opened up a good lead, but also ensuring that they have a bit of a buffer if things go wrong in a later stint. If they end up in an accident or something, being an entire lap ahead of all of their rivals could keep them in a position where they could afford an accident and still come out here with a victory. Real quickly, let's look at the penalties earned thus far. UDP Valkyrie still has no distance penalties, and VER Deerplot now over a 1/3 of a mile. So now in the fight between Valkyrie and Deerplot, distance penalties may have something to come into play, because even if Deerplot catches Valkyrie, it's going to be a matter of, well, they can't just catch Valkyrie. They have to be able to outrun a 1/3 of a mile of distance penalties. He's earned that in the first half of the event. Deerplot could be on track for 2/3 of a mile of distance penalties by the end of this. So yes, Deerplot has speed, but every time he gets more of a distance penalty, he's requiring himself to make more distance as this goes on. It's going to be very difficult for Deerplot to actually run down Valkyrie and then pull away from them by 2/3 of a mile, well, potentially 2/3 of a mile by the end of this. Will you shut up already, you stupid smoke alarm? I've already called maintenance. They should be coming to resolve you at some point today. Just leave me alone for now. Alright, Primo Carnivore, once again, is going to be the first of the GT drivers to jump into pit lane. No one's really willing to push their tires out to the 60% mark. I think everyone's learned the hard way. It's just not a reasonable strategy here. Real quickly changes since the start of the event. NDL didn't do back at the front where he started. DMS Sherry and UDP Valkyrie both up 2 positions off the back of Deerplot and Leechard's instance throughout the event today. Max Jagger's instance. Technically, Leechard has actually gained a position since the start of the race. In GT, NDL Cosmic is right where he started within GT. Technically, all the GT drivers are technically up a position because of Max Jagger's disconnect. But NDL Cosmic is where he started. HYR Cranky is up a position from where they started. Pansy is down a position from where they started. Primo Carnivore is where they started. Next Level is where they started. HYR Void has technically got 3 positions where they started, but one of them is from Max Jagger disconnecting, one of them is from Echo disconnecting, and one of them is from legitimately overtaking AFMG Vorm, who is still reigning technically where he started. So while Vorm had a respectable lap 1 and gained some positions early on, the true pace has shown that Vorm is nowhere near the rest of the field in this grid. He is more than the length of the Campbell straightaway behind HYR Void right now. Bit of a slide right there, right in front of prototype traffic. That was 4th place VER Deerplot. Plot had to have been very, very frustrated there. Dindu trying to make his way through GT traffic right now. But again, the good news is we are at a point in the event where everything is so calmed down, where everything is so spread out, that I don't imagine the GT drivers really have a need to be running alternate lines and really compromising the prototypes. If the GT drivers see prototypes, as long as it's not going to compromise them going to the braking zone, I don't see any reason that most of the GT drivers won't just move over or just brake early and let the prototypes by, because the GT drivers are also spread out. They need to focus on lap times. They don't want to be running alternate lines and giving the prototype traffic any significant hiccups right now. So right now, catching traffic probably not going to be as much of an issue as it was earlier in the event here. So real quickly, when is NDL Dindu going to go ahead and jump into pit lane? He's got engine damage. That's not going to help him. 3% engine damage right now. His rear tires are pretty cooked. But we have just crossed the halfway point of the event. Does Dindu pit this time? No, Dindu's going to stay out another lap. He's got the fuel, and he does not seem to be worried about the engine damage he has been accruing over the event. What of DMS Sherry, who is about half a lap behind now and losing ground? No engine damage. A lot more fuel in the tank, though. 51% rear tire wear, though, and I see this and I have to wonder if some of these drivers in the prototypes are going to deal with significant handling issues as the rear tires burn off over the course of the race. I look at DMS Sherry, who is running with 20% more in the fuel tank, and it makes me wonder if DMS Sherry is overloading the rear of the car to try and put some artificial weight in the back and try to give him a little bit more stability here. It's going to compromise his lap times more, but if that is what it takes to make sure that the car is not out of control going through Alridge and Radion, it may be a legitimate and reasonable strategy to go with. Primo Carnivore still pitted earlier than all of our GT drivers, but when will the rest of them go ahead and make their 3rd stop of the event? Only 6% left in the fuel tank and 56% tire wear for Cosmic, so surely he'll be coming in this time by. And then HYR Cranky, I believe, is running a roughly similar strategy. About a little bit better on tire wear, has slightly more fuel, but I imagine he'll be pitting this time also. So the main strategy seems to be going about 21 minutes on the tires, but no one has been able to go 25 minutes on the tires without some absolutely atrocious pace fall off. To their credit, Les Pangi has actually, despite crashing earlier, has ended up well ahead of Primo Carnivore, but that's only because Carnivore has already made their third stop. Pangi has not. Pangi has been one of the last drivers to make their stops. Primo Carnivore has been always one of the earlier drivers to make a stop. Cosmic and Haya Cranky are both paying this time by, as anticipated. I imagine we'll see Dindu and Sherry pit this time as well. UDP Valkyrie has been very, very reserved on their setups, but they don't have a lot of fuel left. I imagine they'll be considering pitting this time. And yes, UDP Valkyrie pit this time. Interesting enough, DMS Sherry still half a lap behind, so it's going to be a lot longer until Sherry gets to a point where they can make this stop. And that is... Who is that? Is that Leechard? Yeah, that is Leechard behind Sherry on circuit right now. Boy, everyone now has over a 1/10 of a mile of distance penalties, except for Indiel Dindu, who is a little bit less than a 1/10 of a mile. And then obviously UDP Valkyrie still has no distance penalties right now. So again, in that fight between UDP Valkyrie and VER Deerplot that we imagine is going to develop later in the race, Valkyrie does not have the pace, but they have a very, very powerful weapon in their toolbox right now. While I have no doubt that Deerplot will probably catch Valkyrie in about 30 minutes, I have a lot of doubt that Deerplot is going to be able to pull that much on Valkyrie by the end of this all. Real quickly, looking at Deerplot's fuel and tire wear right now, 41%, so he can stay out for a little bit longer here. And now DMS Sherry has jumped into the pit lane like we anticipated. Interesting thing, Void, Nuts Level, Primo Carnivore, they all have roughly the same amount of distance penalties right now. So while everyone's accruing even amounts of distance penalties, and no one wants the distance penalties, if everyone's within just a few hundredths of a mile of distance penalties of each other, it may not really have that much of an impact. Pace may still be the big thing. That's the big reason why I'm talking so much about Deerplot and Valkyrie, because Deerplot and Valkyrie, that's a gigantic difference in distance penalty between the two of them. As I continue to watch Deerplot here, I want to turn this back to penalties here, just to give you an idea how much of a gap Deerplot is going to have to make up. He has to make up 1,879.68 feet, apparently. Let's see here. Spa, Francorchamps. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia page for Spa and see how long the circuit is under its current length right now. It is currently listed as being 4.352 miles. Okay, so 4.352 miles divided by, well, no, I should say time. No, it is, I need to do 0.356 times that by 100, then divide that by 4.352. That's about, what, 8%? Not 8%. It's about... I messed that up. I'm trying to... thankfully, there's not a lot going on in the race right now, so I can try and do these mathematics, but I am exhausted right now from work and other broadcasting that I've been doing this week, so my mind is not completely there. Well, if the track is not quite 4.5 miles around, 1 mile is about 11%. I mean, 1 mile is about 11%. No, half a mile is about 11%. Yeah, Deerplot basically needs to pull about 8% of the track distance on Deerplot. Deerplot has to pull about 8% of the track distance on Valkyrie by the end of this. That is very, very loose napkin math. Very loose napkin math. That is napkin math so bad that if some architect tried to go off of it, I would say you're stupid. Do not listen to me right now. But again, most battles on track have pretty much already dissolved, although HYR Cranky is closing in on Les Panji, but that's likely because Panji is continuing to push their tires super, super far right now, trying to make something happen on an alternate strategy. But the accident they had coming in the pit lane earlier is going to be a main thing that will keep him from really doing anything with that. To Deerplot's credit, as this race has calmed down, he's really settled into a rhythm and isn't gaining as much distance penalties as this is going on as well. So Panji still has to pit, and so does Nets Level. They still both have to make their third stop, and they have to wonder, for Panji and Nets Level, are they going to consider throwing on a set of medium tires on their final pit stop? If they've been able to go 23 minutes on each stint, 23 and 23 would take you to 46. 46 and 23 would take you to 69 minutes in. We're at about 69 minutes in right now, mind you. Nice. 69 and 23 is the same as 79 and 13, which is the same as 89 and 3. That'd take you to 92 minutes in. So you'd have 28 minutes left. You could probably throw on the medium tires at that point and not really have to worry about any fall off on the medium. So yeah, I do wonder, in the case of Panji and Nets Level, are they going to go ahead and throw on mediums on their final stint to try and make something alternate happen? Because 29 minutes on the softs is not, if they've not been able to go 25 minutes on the softs, they're not going to go 29 minutes. But you have to wonder, are they going to try and commit to something else, something alternative here? As HYR Cranky now pulls up alongside HYR Panji. But again, the tire difference is going to be so massive that, yeah, Cranky's already by Panji. There's just nothing that Panji can do to fight back here. So two different BMWs here, but on wildly different strategies. No, wait, never mind. Panji is not in the BMW. He's in a Lexus. I do apologize. Still waiting on Panji and Nets Level to make their final stop in this third round of pit stops. He's got 10% left in the tank, 60% in the tires, so surely he would pit now just so he doesn't lose too much time. But again, if he's trying to make an alternate strategy work, I think Nets Level is in a decent position, though. He's got a little bit more tire life, though, and some fuel still. Panji finally jumps into the pit lane this time by. So when does Nets Level go ahead and decide to pit? And this time as well. Reminder, Nets Level is in a fight with HYR Void. Void's been putting very early, maximizing track position. Nets Level's been pitting very late, trying to maximize tire life. So they keep fighting each other on circuit here. Also, just for the moment, Dindu is actually behind Deerplot. So Deerplot has gotten in a position where he's back on the lead lap, just barely, and he'll have to pit again shortly, so it's going to make it kind of irrelevant anyway. But Deerplot is doing everything right at the moment to put himself back in a good competitive position here. Although his tires are just about cooked on the rear, so I imagine Deerplot's going to be pitting very shortly as well. This here is the person that Deerplot is trying to run down, UDP Valkyrie. Right now, Deerplot has a massive gap on track over UDP Valkyrie, but he's going to pit shortly and lose most, if not all that gap, and end up behind Valkyrie. But Deerplot may have found the speed and consistency to minimize the extra distance penalty that they have been getting. So is Valkyrie going to be able to find a little bit of extra time here as this goes on? Because it doesn't matter how much time you're saving by not getting penalties. If you are too slow to make any advantage out of it, it won't matter. So Deerplot chose not to pit this time by, interestingly enough. So he'll be paying with about 45 minutes left in the event. So Deerplot might be setting up to only make it on 2 more stops still. I mean, granted, I think the entire field is setting up to make it on only 2 more stops, with the exception of 2 of our GT drivers. Well, we're going to go ahead and ride on board for a flying lap with UDP Valkyrie, one of the 2 drivers we're focusing on in this fight for third. where you'll be back here at Spa Francorchamps as we spin the lap on board with UDP Valkyrie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa Francorchamps. UDP Valkyrie has completed his lap. The big question, of course, is going to be for Deerplot. Deerplot has made his fourth stop. Big twitch as he comes out of there. But Deerplot, it's much earlier than anticipated, but Deerplot, despite being an entire pit stop behind Valkyrie, has now overtaken Valkyrie on track. Excuse me. And now is trying to outrun a distance penalty. So Deerplot has absolutely come to life as the event is going on. And while he does have a lot of distance penalties, I think he's going to be fast enough that he's going to clear Valkyrie. I thought we'd have to see a legitimate on-track overtake between the two, but that is not the case. The pace is just so massive in Deerplot's favor that Valkyrie has no real recourse. So with that in mind, there's really only one other question left I have for this race, and that's going to be Dindu versus DMS Sherry. And we're not really going to see how that plays out until near the very end, but the question is Dindu going to get DMS Sherry a lap down by the end of the event? There are a handful of other questions in the GT category I have, just on drivers trying alternate strategies, but the pace difference in GT right now, that everyone is spread out, it's pretty much settled where everyone's going to be, I imagine. So that's just more of a casual interest than anything else. So 10th and 11th place, Nets Level and HYR Void have caught each other once again. So Void is actually the one behind. He had been maximizing track position, but at the cost of tires. And now Nets Level, who has the tire advantage, has actually run him down and has pulled ahead. So I think Nets Level may be in a position to maintain position over Void to the end of this race here. Well, while the strategy has been very simple, straightforward, just pit once every 20 to 21 laps, I have to give credit. A lot of drivers have been trying to do other stuff, paying a lap early or 2 to 3 laps later, and that has kept some intrigue in this event as it goes on. Also, just in general, distance penalties haven't really been creeping up much higher over the last 20 or so minutes as well. Primo Carnivore, though, does have the most distance penalties right now at over 4/10 of a mile. So more than 40% of a mile of distance penalties right now. It's just not been running very well for him at all. He's looking at, what, 2,000 feet? A bit more than 2,000 feet of distance penalties is Carnivore. It's just not been going good for him. He's been having trouble keeping it on the track. And all the drivers he's fighting with are well away from him, though, so it may not have too much of an issue. Let's Panji is way behind him. And yeah, that battle that I had been talking about between Deerplot and Valkyrie, well, Deerplot is absolutely ran away from Valkyrie. They are so far away from each other that even though Valkyrie has no distance penalties, it's not going to matter. Leechard is also in a position that they are now starting to close back in on Valkyrie, but I don't know if Leechard will be able to catch Valkyrie by the end of this either. Also, again, that would be a fight that Valkyrie absolutely would be able to make maximum advantage of minimum distance penalties of, though, if they catch each other. But with how much time is left, 40 minutes left, I'm not sure if Leechard's going to be able to catch Valkyrie by the end of it. All right, Primo Carnivore jumping into the pit lane this time by. He's always been the one making the pit stops early, and it looks like that's going to be the case again here. Early pit stop by Primo Carnivore. But still, it's about 40 minutes left, so Carnivore may be paying early, but he's not paying massively early. He has been doing a good job min-maxing the tire and fuel consumption. So if anything, as this has gone on, he has actually been the one holding the most steadfastly to the normal 5-stop strategy, pit once every 20 minutes or so, and the drivers around him have all been stretching it out just a little bit more here and there. Nets, Level, and HYR Void continue their little spat, but Level has the advantage on Void right now in tire life at the moment. 39 minutes left, so still one more stop for the entire field, I imagine. Well, 2 more stops, I think. They'll have to pit in the next 2 to 3 minutes, and then 1 more stop after that. But I'm going to be curious about the likes of Nets Level. Is he going to try and press this round of tires out long enough that when he does finally make a stop, he throws on the medium tires and cuts out a pit stop to the end? Ooh, that was a slide. Is that going to be a yes? Nets Level gets another small distance penalty added to him after that. Again, the navigation of Alruz and Radion is so incredibly difficult. Deerplot now up to 4/10 of a mile in distance penalties, but he is a long way. He is still about half a lap behind DMS Sherry, so there's no way that Deerplot's going to catch Sherry for second unless Sherry has an accident here. So I think Deerplot just has to hold steady in third and just earn as much distance as possible to make up for the catastrophe earlier. Indiel Cosmic, your leader in GT, is going to jump into the pits, and I imagine ZR Hyatt Cranky will be pitting with him shortly as well. So also, I imagine we'd see HYR Void pit momentarily here. Well, no, Void could probably stay out for another lap or two, actually. And that was the leader, Indiel Dindu, going by that duo you saw. Dindu is at 50% on those rear tires, so I imagine he will go ahead and consider pitting this time by. Now, if he wants to stay out, again, you could maybe throw on the mediums if you stay out for another lap and then just try to limp them home, but it's not something I'd suggest. If the soft tires last you about 21 minutes, the mediums would last you about 50% plus that, another 50% of that. So, you know, if it's 20 minutes on the softs, mediums could take you about 30 minutes. If Dindu stayed out for another 6 minutes somehow, mediums could take him to the end. But again, I don't think he's going to stay out for another 6-7 minutes. I don't see that happening. But drivers who pit excessively late in this stint will be someone to keep an eye on for maybe doing an alternate strategy here. Level and Void continuing their stalking battle, but Void is very much on the bad end of this. The only thing he really has over Net's Level is that Level seems to be struggling just a little bit more keeping the car on track here. HYR Cranky actually stayed out an extra lap longer than Indiel Cosmic, interestingly enough. Is HYR Cranky going to try and do something alternate on the strategy? We still have 36 minutes left. You would not be able to make it to the end on tires right now if you throw on mediums. So what is HYR Cranky's game? You have to wonder if maybe he's hoping for a short fill later on. The other thing as well, though, is that HYR Cranky has twice, nearly 3 times, well, it's somewhere between 2 times and 3 times the amount of distance penalties right now that Cosmic has. I'd say closer to twice as much. But, yeah. So even if HYR Cranky makes an alternate strategy work, the distance penalty will likely be enough to deny him any chance of really making anything of it. Dindu now over a 1/10 of a mile distance penalty, and now HYR Cranky coming in with about 36 minutes left in the event. I will go ahead and say that even though Valkyrie has mostly avoided time penalties by just being very conservative and relatively so, I am impressed that it has been nearly an hour and a half and Valkyrie still has earned no distance penalties whatsoever. Every other driver has earned, at the bare minimum, 1/4, well not 1/4, but 0.125 miles of distance penalties at this stage of the race. So I do want to give Valkyrie a real quick shout out for that. Dindu pitting out of the top spot right now. Deerplot's going to stay out a little bit longer, as we know he will. So Deerplot's going to get hit back on the lead lap for a little bit of time. I think not, actually. No, actually, Dindu is still well enough ahead of Deerplot. So yeah, Deerplot will stay a lap down for the moment. There's still the question of, will Dindu put DMS Sherry a lap down by the end of this? Now, pitting now has definitely kind of hurt Dindu's chance of putting Sherry a lap down, but Sherry's about to make a stop. Again, 35 minutes left. You throw on the medium tires now, it would not be ideal to go to the end. You want to stay out for another 2 to 3 laps if you could. UDP Valkyrie jumping into the pits this time as well. What of Leechard? Can Leechard do anything to Valkyrie? Leechard may be in a position, because he's so offset on tire life, he might be able to throw on the mediums later on and cut out a pit stop and try to catch Valkyrie in that way. And yes, DMS Sherry will pit this time by. And Leechard is now briefly ahead of Valkyrie. And now Valkyrie's back ahead, but Leechard has the tire life advantage over Valkyrie. Now both these drivers should have one more stop left. Leechard might be 2, but both of them have 1 stop left. And remember, last time Valkyrie and Leechard were on top of each other, Leechard ended up the worst of it, crashing and flipping the car 4 times. Can he avoid letting that happen this time? Leechard is going to go right by Valkyrie. Valkyrie doesn't even try to put up a defense. And now Valkyrie's lack of pace has caused him to drop down to 5th on track. But boy, just looking at Leechard, that thing is still really slidey. But I think he may have gotten by the worst of it. So Leechard has rebounded to what is currently 4th on track. But he is nowhere near 3rd place Deerplot, obviously, let alone the top 2. And after that most recent round of pit stops, DMS Sherry is still about a 1/3 of a lap ahead of Dindu. I think Dindu may have relaxed his pace just a little bit to ensure that he's not going to damage the car as this goes on. All right, now the question is for Pansy and Next Level. We're at 32.5 minutes left in the event. These drivers might be in a position that when they make their stop, they could throw on the medium tires and not pit again. They would be at a massive pace disadvantage to the end of the race, but they would not have to make another stop. I don't think that would give them a massive advantage over their rivals on track just because the penalties would negate most of it. No, I take that back. HYR Cranky is nearly at 0.4 of a mile time penalty. Pansy is only at 1/3 of a mile right now. That might be enough for Pansy to still nip second place from HYR Cranky here. If he gets a massive amount of track position and HYR Cranky is not in a position to capitalize. For Next Level and Void, I think it would be a much more significant difference there because those two have been on top of each other most of the day today. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on this. Are they going to pit this time by? Pansy is at 46% tire life. He can go another lap if he wants. Then you have Next Level back here, who's in 10th overall. He is also at 43%. I think Pansy and Next Level may seriously consider throwing on medium tires for the final stint here. So it wasn't the strategy, the first alternate strategy that looked like a lot of drivers were going to go for was going to try and go 25 minutes on the tires. Well, everyone aborted that on the first round of stops. Everyone realized that 23 was too much. But now these drivers who have been going longer on the tires may be setting themselves up to do just one less stop, but instead of, you know, doing all softs through the end, make the final stint on mediums, trade in some pace advantage to instead get track position and minimize the amount of time on pit lane. Pansy did not pit this time, and Next Level not pitting this time either. So yeah, they will both have less than 30 minutes on these medium tires, trying to do everything they can to make sure the amount of time they spend on the more worn out tires is minimized right now. So Pansy trying to recover from an accident during his second pit stop. Granted, it was just as he came in, so it didn't cost him a massive amount of time, but it was still enough to take him out of the on-track battle for second and third position. But as this has gone on, Primo Carnivore has been committing to pitting very, very early compared to everyone else. He is committing to exactly 20 minutes. Most everyone else is closer to about 21 minutes, and then Pansy's closer to like 23 minutes. So the fight for second has kind of re-sparked, but now it's all off the back of strategy madness. Deer Plot is running back down on NDL Didn't Do. He has a little bit of a tire life advantage right now, so I would not be surprised if Deer Plot tries to catch Didn't Do and get ahead of him so he can get back on the lead lap and negate some of the distance loss that he has had over Didn't Do throughout the run. But with all that distance penalty that Deer Plot has, again, over 40% of a mile, it's not really going to help him much. All right, we turn our focus back to the GT drivers who have not yet made stops on this round. Are they going to make it this time? Pansy is going to stay out another circuit. Those tires have got to be wearing out something bad, but Pansy stays out another time. What of Next Level is back here in 10th. He's still doing a little bit better on tire life, though, than Pansy, but fuel will be a question for Level. Round the chicane. And now back onto the front straightaway again. Once more, Pansy and Level choose not to pit yet. We're going to go ahead. I'm looking right now at Deer Plot. as he's continuing to try and run down on NDL Dindu, your leader, the driver who's led nearly the entirety of the race in the prototype category. Oh, what could have been if Deerplot did not end up in that lap 1 accident in Al Rouge and Radion? What could Deerplot have done? Would he have been able to fight Dindu legitimately for the win of the stint and kept his team in contention for the overall event? As is right now, the VER team is running an entire lap behind, or about to be running an entire lap behind the NDL team after this stint, and they only have 3 more stints to try and make that up. I'm not saying it can't be done, but that is going to be a big ask going forward. Gap's not really closing down that much, though. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break as we follow VER Deerplot as he chases NDL Dindu here around Spa Francorchamps. We'll be back momentarily here at Spa. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa Francorchamps. As you can see, VER Deerplot is running down NDL Dindu, but that is not a fight for the overall win. That is a fight to get back on the lead lap. And have we just lost another driver? Oh, please tell me we've not just lost another driver. And we have! And it's Cranky, who had been running second up to this point! ZR HYR Cranky suddenly is disconnected from the event. We'll try and reach out to him and see what happened, but frustration, as HYR Cranky was on track for a second place result here. But this now puts Primo Carnivore back into a podium spot. We could have Ford finishing 1-2 in this event, but the thing is, Les Pangi is running in 8th right now. Now, they have completed their final stop already. If they're running mediums to the end, Primo Carnivore has to run some great times, then make up will basically be an entire pit stop to run down on Pangi. But we may have a fight for 2nd and 3rd on the podium back into play. So Nets, Level, and Void are back to fighting with each other as well now. But Void is absolutely harassing Level at the moment. As Level has a massive amount of tire life advantage at the moment, though. Deer Plot gets another distance penalty as he is trying to run down on Didn't Do. About 22 left here on the clock. Primo Carnivore being overtaken there by Leechard, and there's Deer Plot jumping into the pits with 22 minutes left, so I imagine this will be Deer Plot's final pit stop of the day. He'll probably throw on some softs, and while they won't be great by the end, this should be his last stop of the race. So he'll make the 5-stop strategy work, but it's going to be a suboptimal 5-stop strategy, considering that he had to pit on his first lap due to significant amount of car damage from his lap 1 accident in Radion. In the stalking battle between Dindu and Sherry, well, Sherry might just barely be able to hold on to a lead lap position over NDL Dindu. I think Dindu has just maintained and reserved his pace enough to ensure that's not going to be an issue of him overrunning the car and damaging it, and I think that will be just enough to keep Sherry on the lead lap, but just barely on the lead lap at that. Well, we are in a much calmer stage of the race right now. Not a lot has really been going on at this point of the event. Most of the battles on track have pretty much resolved themselves, but there is a strategy-based fight that is opening up between Primo Carnivore and Les Panji. Carnivore still has another pit stop to make, but we believe that Panji has thrown on medium tires and is not pitting again to the end of this race, while Primo Carnivore will still have to make another pit stop, likely at the end of this lap. And then Carnivore will be behind Panji and will have to not only run down Panji, but he does have a distance disadvantage when it comes to penalties at the moment, so he has to outrun the penalty as well. So a fight for second and third on the grid, and GT has started to redevelop here. AFMG Form now is jumping and making his final stop. NDL Cosmic has just made his final stop of the event. But right now, with HYR Cranky having disconnected, Cosmic has about 40% of a lap over Primo Carnivore right now. And again, Cosmic is relatively well off when it comes to distance penalties as well, so it's not really going to matter. Leechard making what is his final stop now. We're likely going to see our leader and prototype NDL Dindu make their final stop momentarily here also. Well, maybe not that momentarily. I wonder how long he's going to press this current set of tires. DMS Sherry runs in second spot still. He can stay out for quite a bit longer, honestly. Valkyrie actually got by Leechard while Leechard was in pit lane, but still, Valkyrie does have another pit stop to make, and that will immediately put them right back behind Leechard before this is over. Les Panji has overtaken Primo Carnivore as Carnivore has completed his pit stop. Now, how far behind Panji is Carnivore going to be? Because Carnivore will now have nice fresh tires to the end. Neither of them will have to stop again, but not only does Carnivore have to run Panji down, he has to not get more distance penalties. He basically needs to make up 6/100ths of a distance penalty on Panji here. There's Carnivore in the background. So this is going to be a legitimate fight to the end here. HYR Void runs way behind, so he's not going to have any impact on this battle to the end here. Nets Level has actually lost touch with HYR Void, but it won't matter because, again, we think that Level has put on medium tires. So he does not have to pit again. HYR Void is going to have to pit likely at the end of this lap. Or not. No, there's still some life on there. Void may still have medium tires as well. I may not realize it, but Void would be pushing those tires deep into the wear, deep into the red. So Level might catch Void back off of tire life. So some fights developing lower down in the grid now. This is Primo Carnivore we are on board with right now. And you can briefly see Pansy just ahead there. This is going to be with HYR Cranky's disconnect, this will be the battle for second and third, the bottom two steps on the podium in this stint. While fighting for the stint victory in GT is completely out of touch, it is still something to keep an eye on here as we come down to it. And we are going to take our last Twitch-mandated ad break here. Once we come back, we will be staying on track to the checkered flag here, to the end of the timer. It's not really a checkered flag, it will be the end of the timer. But we're going to spin the lap on board with Primo Carnivore as he tries to run down Les Pangi here with just about a quarter of an hour left here at Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa Francorchamps. About 13 and a half minutes left here. Your leader, Indiel Dindu, is in pit road for the final pit stop that he is going to take today in the battle between himself and trying to put DMS Sherry a lap down. Well, game, come on. DMS Sherry is currently running in second position. His tires are absolutely cooked, though. He's going to have to pit at the end of this lap, and Indiel Dindu is going to be relatively close to DMS Sherry. So Dindu on a quest to still put maybe the entire field a lap down before the end of this. The other big thing to keep an eye on is going to be Pansy versus Primo Carnivore. Carnivore has nice, fresh, soft tires. Pansy has worn medium tires, but Pansy has a significant amount of distance. Also, Pansy has an advantage when it comes to time penalties as well. So despite crashing coming into the pit lane earlier, Pansy might still be able to pull off a respectable finishing result out of this, even though the distance won't be very good. But honestly, in today's event, there has been no one who's been on the level of the NDL drivers. While VER Deer Plot and Prototypes has had pace equal to or superior that NDL didn't do, he has basically been trying to make up an entire lap deficit basically since the end of lap 2, because he had that big accident lap 1 in Al Rouge and Radion. UDP Valkyrie just made their final stop with about 12.5 minutes left. That will put them back down to 5th, where we knew that they were going to end up being. Lee Shirt is going to maintain the 4th place position, assuming they don't have another accident later in the event. Deer Plot is still well behind our leader, NDL Dindu, right now. And DMS Sherry will be coming into the pits this time, we anticipate. No, Sherry stays out another lap now. Those tires are absolutely cooked. He doesn't have a lot of fuel left. He's got to pit sooner rather than later. But DMS Sherry really trying to do anything he can to not go a lap down to Dindu at the moment. And now we know that NDL Cosmic, assuming he doesn't end up in a catastrophic accident, we know for a fact that he's going to win in GT. The fight is going to be for 2nd. Primo Carnivore in 3rd, trying to run down Les Panji in 2nd position. The gap continues to shrink, slowly but surely. Using the points of interest camera, we'll go ahead and try to time the gap between them here. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005. It's about 5 to 5.2 seconds between Cosmic and Panji, as far as I can tell. I'll clock him again here. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005. Yeah, it's about 5.25 seconds, I imagine, between the two of them. So if every minute that goes, if every 2 minutes that goes by, Panji can make up a second. I mean, Primo can make up a second on Panji. He'll catch him, but catching him is one thing. He has to not only catch him, but pass him and get by him by 0.06 of a mile. And for those of you who are not a big fan of dealing with mathematics, that would be 317 feet, basically, that Primo has to outrun Panji here. So I think Carnivore can catch Panji before this is over. I don't think he's going to be able to outrun the distance penalty. So as long as Panji doesn't earn any more distance penalties between now and the end of this stint, I think Panji is going to make this stick. DMS Sherry now finally pitting. So here's the question. Is Dindu going to be able to catch DMS Sherry and put Sherry a lap down? Well, I imagine that Dindu will still be behind Sherry. Once Sherry leaves the pit lane, they're going to be right on top of each other. Sherry will have a tire advantage, and with making the stop so late, it will be a short fill. They won't be putting as much fuel in the tank here. Dindu coming onto the pit straightaway right now. Sherry coming down into the hairpin, about to exit the circuit. But Sherry is going to maintain a respectable gap between themselves and Dindu right now. It's going to be clean track ahead of him, I think, to the end of this race. So I think it will be just barely, but I think Dindu is not going to be able to put DMS Sherry a lap down by the end here. The fight between Panji and Primo Carnivore. Carnivore had to deal with just a little bit of prototype traffic going by. The gap is not closing fast enough. I don't think that Primo Carnivore is going to be able to catch Panji at all by the end of this. Also in the fight between Nets Level and HYR Void, well, Level has a gigantic on-track advantage and distance advantage as well. So I think Level is going to secure 9th overall, which will be 4th in this event off of this go long on, slightly long the sauce and throw on mediums late strategy here. But yeah, it seems like Primo Carnivore does not have the time or the speed to catch Panji, let alone outrun the distance penalty. This is DMS Sherry we're looking at, and just by him on track is NDL Dindu. Again, clean track ahead of him. It is Mono Ye Mono. Can Dindu put DMS Sherry a lap down, give his team an absurd advantage going forward here? Dindu runs a bit wide. Sherry runs a little bit wide, actually wider, honestly. We'll try to time the gap between them when they come to the hairpin, and then also just before they enter Al Rouge. Yeah, I think that's only about 1.2 second gap between the two of them right now. Dindu is going to catch Sherry, so how aggressively is Dindu going to harass Sherry as we come to the end here? Yeah, it's about 1.2 to 1.3 seconds, and that's a slide! That was a big slide by Sherry going up the hill. He'll keep it off the circuit, off the walls, but that's it. Sherry is a lap down, completely self-inflicted slide there. The pressure started getting to him, and Sherry had a big slide going up the hill. He kept it off the wall, kept it off of everything, but he is now a lap down, so NDL Dindu has put the entirety of the prototype field a lap down in the event today. Technically, this also means that Deerplot is only a little bit behind Sherry, but Deerplot has 3 times, or about 3 times, the amount of distance penalties that Sherry has, though, so it doesn't really matter. But my goodness, NDL Dindu has been on something else today. So with that in mind, I think that pretty much resolves every single battle on track. Again, Carnivore is not running down Pansy at all. Even though Pansy is on these worn medium tires, he is doing a good job maintaining his pace. And Carnivore is just not running him down by any significant margin here. So that's over. At this stage of the race, the driver with the most distance penalty is HYR Void here. In the Mercedes, he is one of 2 drivers that have over half a mile of distance penalties right now. So, real quickly, just a rundown for everyone's stories thus far. TNR Max Jaga started up near the front, opened up a gap on the rest of the field, but then after about 10 minutes, that gap was lost to NDL Dindu, and then in his first round of pit stops, Max Jaga disconnected. EVR Echo had been fighting with Vorm for the last place in GT for a while, but eventually disconnected. That was about 20 minutes into the event. And then about 20 minutes ago, ZR HYR Cranky, who had pretty much wrapped up second, had a disconnect of their own. So, not a great time for them. Then we're looking at AFMG Vorm. Started at the back of the grid here, had a respectable first lap, but since then just kind of gradually fell through the grid and has just had no pace whatsoever. He's done a respectable job managing distance penalties. He had the least amount of distance penalties of everyone in the GT category, but it means nothing because he just has no pace to do anything with it. HYR Void had been in a fight with Nets Level for most of the time, but Nets Level has snookered him on tire strategy, and Void has more distance penalties than anyone else. Level has the second most distance penalties of everyone else, but it does look like he's going to secure 4th place in the end of this stint. 3rd place looks like it's going to go to Primo Carnivore. While he's been running all softs all the way through, he has more distance penalty and just does not have the sheer pace to run down Les Pansy, who had an accident coming into pit lane in his 2nd round of pit stops, but despite that, he's kept his nose relatively clean. He's minimized his time penalties good enough, and he has done a strategy masterclass. He is going to maintain 2nd over Primo Carnivore here, but your winner in GT, and it's not even going to be close, is going to be NDL Cosmic here in the Ford Mustang. No one has really been on his level. Now, there had been about a 4-car breakaway with Cosmic, HYR Cranky, Pansy, and Primo Carnivore in the first few laps, but once Cosmic broke the draft, it really showed that no one else was on his level over the course of the day today. Then you look at our prototypes. UDP Valkyrie runs 5th. At one point, they were as high as 3rd, but while they've done a great job maintaining no distance penalties over the event, There's not been any hint of pace in Valkyrie's machine all day today. Down in 5th, just gradually losing time all day long. Leachard has recovered from 3 separate accidents, including one multi-time rollover just before the pit lane entry. And he has recovered to 4th, but that's not much of a recovery, though, when you get down to it. Deerplot had a lap 1 accident in Al Rouge and Radion and has been running desperately to try to make up the gap. And he has recovered to 3rd. 2nd is up the road from him, but even if he caught 2nd, the distance penalty is too big for him to outrun. 2nd is going to go to DMS Sherry, but sadly, despite being 2nd and keeping his nose clean, he has had some slides, has not had enough pace to stay on the lead lap against this man here, Indiel Dindu, who has been on a complete alternate planet all day today. No one has anything for Dindu outside of Deerplot and pace. But again, that lap 1 incident has ensured that Deerplot has had nothing he'll be able to do against Dindu all day long today. And even if Dindu had an accident right now, he would still win this stint and have a bit of a gap over it. Not to mention, he still has less distance penalties in second place DMS Sherry. So even if Dindu had unless he had an outright disconnect right now, and I'm saying that anticipating he's not going to, but even if he had a disconnect right now, it's been an absolutely fantastic time right now for Dindu. So the NDL team has really come out in force today and has just absolutely laid the smash down on the entire field. Coming down, about 75 seconds left right now here. Just a little less than a minute left, so we'll likely see Dindu finish his run at the start of Sector 2, I imagine. Just watching him as he comes down to the end here. Cosmic now crosses the start-finish line, so his race will probably end in the just a little bit before Al Rouge and Radion. Well, the first half of the stint was pretty interesting. The latter half really kind of got spread out and not a lot happened. But in the end, it will be Indiel Dindu easily goes to the top here as we watch the clock tick down. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Over. Plow! And your winner is Indiel Dindu. DMS Sherry will be 2nd. 3rd will be VER Deerplot. 4th will be Leachard. 5th will be UDP Valkyrie. Then the GTs. Your winner is Indiel Cosmic, followed by Panji. Thank you, game. I actually wanted to finish reading that off. Well, either way, we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we'll try to get some interviews with some of our top finishers in both categories here at Spa after Stint 2 has come to an end here. We'll be back shortly. All right. Hey, Sherry, can you hear me? All right, awesome. In the Xbox party, there should be a way for you to include your audio. Can you hit the box to do that? All right. Oh, 1 second. Let me check. I may not have turned it on earlier, actually. Let me check here. All right, how about now? Do you see it now? All right, yeah, go ahead and hit that when you get a chance, okay?
Alrighty.
All right, Carnivore, can you hear me? In the Xbox party, there should be a little box to click that'll say, yep. All right, awesome. I'm just knocking out this last little Twitch ad break here, and then we'll start interviews once that's done.
Sounds good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Spa Francorchamps Stint 2 here for the HYR 10-hour Spa Enduro has come to a close. Your winner is NDL Dindu, but I want to talk with our second place finisher, DMS Sherry. Sherry, the good news is you came home second. The bad news is you're still a lap down and going to lose a massive amount of time to the NDL team. How would you rate the stint in your opinion?
I mean, in my opinion, it could have gone better. I wasn't very fast at all. I don't know what's up with practicing and qualifying. I just haven't been fast all week, it seems, with practicing. Just happy I could bring home a second place finish in this stint. My teammate didn't have a very good first stint, so.
Well, there are still 3 more stints left. Who's going to take over the car in stint 3?
I will.
All right. We'll see you running back-to-back stints in stint 3. Good luck out there, mate. And now I also want to go ahead and talk to Primo Carnivore. Carnivore ended up coming home with a podium result, but in the end, it seemed like even though you had a massive tire advantage, you could not run down Panji at the end. Was there any reason in particular you could not catch Panji at the end there?
Yeah, it really developed down to the fact that I saw it and I was losing time through the first half of that last stint. I noticed that I was losing time. I was like, okay, I'll just back off a little, bring the car home safe. But then I noticed the tires start to fall off, and I realized that I had just messed up completely. I needed to keep the pace going, which is, rookie mistake. But in the end of the day, a P3 in your first stint for this, because this will be the only stint I'll run because I got stuff going on. But P3 it's not a bad result, but not the best one.
Okay, so the interesting story with you, and to a lesser extent NDL Cosmic out at the front, at least personally, I have watched many, many different kinds of GT3 racing. Ever since the Ford Mustang GT3 has been added to the game, it has been woefully uncompetitive. I've only ever seen it get 1 win in any GT3 category, and that was off the back of ESV Green just doing blocking all day long at Bathurst. Other than that, I've never seen the Ford Mustang put on any kind of good results before. You showed up, you ran podium positions most of the day long, came home third. Cosmic won in the Mustang. What is different today that has let the Mustang finally showcase some speed?
I mean, obviously Cosmic's one of the quicker drivers we have overall, so obviously he's going to put whatever he's in, he'll make it competitive. But for me, it always developed down to the fact that I've always gelled with the Mustang because I remember you probably cast it at one point at Nürburgring. My stints in the Mustang were probably the best I've ever had. I gained 15 positions overall in 3 stints, 11 in the first ones. That's something I've always taken pride in with the Mustang, is that I can drive it up there with the best of them.
Is it only the Mustang, or are there other GT3 cars that you feel that you have that level of affinity with?
It's not just the Mustang, but it's definitely the one that holds the highest spot for me. I can do pretty much what Cosmic does and be fast in anything, but I'm not close enough to him to have that kind of, area of expertise.
Yeah, reasonable enough. Okay, one more question before I let you go and get on with your life. Who's going to take over the car for your team in Stint 3?
I believe we have Hilfiger going in for Stint 3.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on Hilfiger then going into the next stint. But Carnivore, thanks for jumping in and talking with us here at Spa. 2 stints are down, but there are still 3 more to go. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be able to broadcast the next stint of this or not, because I do have some circumstances happening here on my end. I'm sure some of you on the stream have heard that annoying smoke alarm beeping in the background, and I need to let maintenance in at some point to fix that. So I don't know if I'll be able to cover the next stint or not, but whether I will or won't, I do want to say thanks everyone for joining with us today. I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we have been covering part of HYR Spa Francorchamps Endurance, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Until next time, farewell and goodbye, everyone.